This video tutorial will take a look at factoring four-term polynomials by grouping. Our first example will be 4x squared y plus 28xy plus 9x plus 63. We will factor this four-term polynomial. As always, at the beginning we will ask ourselves the question if our polynomial has a greatest common factor. In this instance, it does not. The first step will be to group our terms into two groups with two terms in each group. All we've done is add grouping symbols, parentheses, to form two groups, the first in red and the second in blue. Notice though, the first line and the second line remain the same. All we've done is add in the grouping symbols. Let's confirm that they are the same. In both the first line and the second line, we have 4x squared y. We have plus 28xy. We have to be a little bit careful here because the addition sign in our second line will distribute to both terms inside of the parentheses. So we have plus 9x in both the first and the second line. And we have plus 63 in the first line and plus a positive 63, which is plus 63. So adding in our grouping symbols has not changed anything. When there is an addition symbol between our groups, nothing has to change. This is not the case with subtraction, but we'll look at some of those examples coming up. Now we will factor each group, which are both binomials. The greatest common factor of our first binomial is 4xy. 4xy times x would be 4x squared y, and 4xy times positive 7 would be positive 28xy. So, factoring our first group, we get the factors 4xy and x plus 7. We will add this to the factors of our second group, or our second binomial. The greatest common factor of this binomial would be 9. 9 times x would be 9x, and 9 times positive 7 would be positive 63. So factoring our second binomial, we get 9 and x plus 7 as factors. When using grouping as a strategy, it is important that the second factor of each of our binomials is the same. In this instance, it's x plus 7. Notice that both 4xy and positive 9 are being multiplied by x plus 7. We are going to rewrite this and have our first factor be 4xy plus 9 and our second factor be x plus 7. Let's unpack why we did this. Notice in the third line, 4xy was being multiplied by x plus 7. Well, in the fourth line, this will still be the case. And in the third line, positive 9 was being multiplied by x plus 7. And in the fourth line, this is still the case. So now we have our two factors, 4xy plus 9 and x plus 7. Let's check for accuracy. 4xy times x is 4x squared y. 4xy times positive 7 is positive 28xy. Positive 9 times x is positive 9x. And positive 9 times positive 7 is positive 63. So we have successfully factored this four-term polynomial. Let's do a quick recap of how we did this. This was a four-term polynomial that did not have a greatest common factor. We kept this four-term polynomial, but we grouped it using our grouping symbols, parentheses, to form two groups or two binomials. We had an addition symbol in between our two groups. We took the first binomial and factored it, and added it to the factors of our second binomial. It is important that the second factor in each group is the same, in this instance x plus 7. This became one of our factors, and our second factor was 4xy plus 9. Which was being multiplied by x plus 7 in both instances. Let's factor this four-term polynomial. As always, when we begin to factor a polynomial, we must ask ourselves the question if it has a greatest common factor or not. This four-term polynomial does not have a greatest common factor. To factor a four-term polynomial, we will use the strategy of grouping. So we are going to group our four terms into two different groups, which will both be binomials. Notice, as in the first example, the operation between our two groups is addition. This means that nothing has to change when we add in our grouping symbols, the parentheses. Now, we will factor the first binomial. The greatest common factor is x. X times 2 will get us 2x, and x times negative xy will get us negative x squared y. Factoring our first binomial, we get the factors x and 2 minus xy. This will be added to the factors of our second binomial. The greatest common factor for our second binomial will be y. Y times 2 will get us 2y, and y times negative xy will get us negative xy squared. As is important when factoring by grouping, the second factor for each group must be the same. In this instance, 2 minus xy. As shown in blue, x and positive y are being multiplied by 2 minus xy. So we will rewrite this as x plus y times 2 minus xy. So we have successfully factored our four-term polynomial. Let's check for accuracy. X times 2 is 2x. X times negative xy is negative x squared y. Positive y times 2 is positive 2y. And positive y times negative xy is negative xy squared. So our final factors are accurate.